If you have a great idea that is selling well, or at least you hope it will sell well, how do you stop the counterfeiters and the con men? How can you protect your brand? Enter Pointer. Started 10 years ago in the Netherlands to prevent you from getting ripped off. Pointer now has teams across the world using specialist software and investigators to monitor websites, manufacturers and sellers to see if they are stealing companies' ideas, and then they stop them. Hello from me, David Foster. Welcome to The Business Debate. Two of you here. Let's turn first of all to Ben Mock. You have experience of this from a very young age because you grew up in Hong Kong, I think, on a street where there were an awful lot of rip-off goods. What did you see? What did you learn?
Well, growing up, you don't know the difference. And I just happened to, had a chance to grow up on a street where foreigners, international travelers come to the street I live on to buy counterfeit. So when you go downstairs, it's all kinds of vendors, and growing up, you don't know what's legitimate, what's genuine, and of course, you don't know as a young child. You don't understand the downstream negative impact.
And you're talking about all sorts of goods, are you?
Yeah.
All sorts of different things?
It's not just fashion. There's a lot of fashion is sold in individual bags on the streets, street vendors. That's how I grew up. Growing up, I didn't know I was wearing counterfeits or the genuine products. So I knew it was counterfeits after washing it twice. It goes out of shape. So that's how I figure out.
Or your watch stops working.
That's right.
It's not the little guy who's selling it, is it? The chap who fronts the shop. It's somebody else supplying them and somebody else supplying them. And the problem of this is not so much that one chap is making a few dollars out of it,
that's correct,
but it's big. That's
right. So what we've found is, from our experience, and they can go to fund different criminal activities. So as a consumer, it's a $460 billion industry as of last year. And it's a quite big industry on its own. So if only 1% of that money is going to fund prostitution, drugs, or any criminal organized activities, that's 1% is still too much. So consumers just need to be aware of that's going on. So next time they're more careful when they make a purchase on the internet or when they want to buy a counterfeit product.
Do you feel you have a moral policeman's duty here, or simply a financial policeman's duty?
Well, I would say it's a little bit of both, because we protect brand owners and we protect their brand value, that's number one, and we protect their bottom line as well. And on the other side, we want to protect the consumer. Some of the consumers, they go out and look for counterfeits. When a product is sold usually at retail at $10, it's on sale for $2, that's a counterfeit product. And there are consumers that focus on that, but there are a lot of consumers that we like to focus on that they're just fooled because the quality of the counterfeit is excellent and the price point is not that much lower. So that's how a lot of consumers get fooled, and that's where infringers profit from these great brands out there.
Ben, thanks very much indeed. Let's come to Robert Stolk. You started the company 10 years ago. If they are that sophisticated, how do you keep up with them?
Yeah, it's very important to stay one step ahead of them, where they used to sell or at least ship products in bulk. They're now selling small parcels to avoid detection. So customs have a very difficult job in seizing all those products. Where we step in is mainly, at first at least, to find where they're selling online. So we monitor all the marketplaces, websites, and identify the large volume sellers who are active there. They make it very difficult because they use genuine pictures and prices that are also...
Which they've stolen from elsewhere.
Exactly, which make it copyright infringements on its own already. So it's more and more difficult to track and identify. Our teams are trained to identify them on a per brand level. We make sure to get all the product knowledge to be able to enforce everything and first identify everything, of course. And from there, target the high volume sellers. We have a bulk approach when it comes to online enforcement and making sure we get as much of the infringements offline as soon as possible. And from there, also identify the large volume sellers that have offline presence, brick and mortar stores, operate thousands of sales channels online sometimes. And those we target for actual investigations and offline follow-up as well.
Okay. There are two sides to this as I see it. There are probably many more sides as well. But one is the investigation And for that, you've got a team of people who are doing it. And the other is the computer side of things, I suppose, these days. So how much of it, Ben, is done automatically?
Well, I would say majority of our work is done automatically, but there's a fraction that you do need analysis, you do need investigators to follow up, and we do need sometimes on-the-ground resource as well. And in terms of counterfeits, historically, it's sold on the streets and in stores. But now, infringers are smart, so most of the battlefield in terms of anti-counterfeit is on the internet. So that allows us, as a technology partner for brands, we can do a lot of the work automatically.
And you've got software systems that will help you, they'll flag things up, yeah?
That's right. So, and just with a few clicks of a button, we can remove hundreds of listings on a website, and we can shut down web shops as well, and we can shut down social media profiles as well.
If I came to you and said, look, I'm making this thing, let's say it's a boat. It's a revolutionary type of boat for leisure activities, but I think somebody's ripping me off. Where would you start?
For us, it always starts with a landscape report. You first need to know where are your products being sold, who is selling them, for what prices. Our software is capable of getting such a picture quite fast. From there you know where they're trading, and from there you also know where to start. What is the main priority product we're looking for, what's the product main market we want to search for. And that's where we then start, and that's where we start the enforcement and investigation part.
It doesn't sound like it's going to come cheap to me. I might think it's going to cost me a fortune. Your argument would be that it's going to save me a fortune.
Mm-hmm. And what's the alternative? If you don't take action, you don't enforce and monitor your own brand and products, well, how much damage can it cause? I mean, we've seen brands that go under and get overran by counterfeits and these infringements.
In terms of the room in the marketplace for this, you have to be successful. How do you prove that you're successful?
It's based on those initial landscape reports as well, and once we start working, we can also track the progress we're making. We start with the bulk approach, saying we're taking offline tens of thousands, sometimes millions of listings every year for one or two brands only. And from there we see the average price going up, we see sellers that used to sell huge quantities of infringements going down, and that way we're able to track those progress.
And do you just frighten these people off? Or is there something you can do with law enforcement to prevent them doing this again?
That's actually that strategic approach that we're having, combined with the investigators. So on the one hand, we try to scare them off, absolutely. But on the other hand, by gathering all that evidence and then trying to work with local law enforcement, local law firms, local investigators, we try to gain the full picture and try to identify who their manufacturer is and what their distribution channel looks like. And from there, indeed, together with local law enforcement, eventually you'll be able to make the big action, the big raids.
I bet it's fascinating, isn't it?
It's very fascinating, actually. It is, and it's a huge market, and it continuously grows. And there's not effective enough tools out there to stop them, and that's what we're trying to achieve, obviously, eventually.
Well, thank you both very much.
Thank you, David.
Thank you as well.
And do join us next time when we'll be talking on the Business Debate about mergers and acquisitions and Islamic finance. From me, David Foster, at the London Stock Exchange. Goodbye for now. I hope to have your company next time.